So what I wanted to go through today is basically what I would do if I had to start over. And the first thing I would do is do a lot of market research and understand the business I was getting into. And that's what I'm going to walk through. So I'm going to walk through this post basically, and we do keep this post updated. It's become very popular, and we keep it updated as we come across new items. And we have our partnership has a few different irons in the fire. So this is an active list that we're doing. So basically, you know, the first thing here, I'll go to this image. The first thing is that, like, putting time up front is going to drive so much benefit in the end. A good startup is a 20-year deal, 10, 20-year deal. At least I don't start them to just get out and sell. Of course you're smart if you have an exit plan and that kind of things, but generally things don't go by the plan. And also, we're bootstrapped, so we don't get a lot of funding and then you sell and that kind of thing. It's more about lifestyle businesses. It's more about businesses that we really want to run for the long term. And so, when you're making this decision to get into business, all of these check marks need to be thought about because, you're going to be in this every single day. I mean, I work 7 days a week, so you're going to be in this every single day of your life after you get into this business. So you better make sure that it's something that you enjoy, something that you think that is going to do well, and also something that's kind of like on the rise. So I'll get into that here in a little bit, but you can see what all your concept is going to drive over time is all of these things. Where you're going to live, where you invest, what you learn. So many things is going to be determined based on this decision to get into the business that you choose. So without further ado, basically, I'm going to skip over this. I'll get into that a little bit later. But basically, I've got three basic concepts here: model test, market test, and concept test. Concept tests are the software or the product that you sell. Model test is kind of the financial model, the business model behind that, and market is where you operate. So basically, the model test. Let's start there. So recurring revenue. Man, I can't tell you how important that is. It's like I had a golf business. I started off by selling one-off DVDs, and so basically it would be just a DVD to the customer. I would have to acquire that customer over and over and over again, and that just got to be very. It's like running on a treadmill, whereas and the lifetime value tends to be a lot lower in one-time sales. So your lifetime value determines how much you can typically pay for a customer to acquire a customer, and with recurring revenue, that model that lifetime value just goes up and up and up. Even with us, a fairly low price product, the lifetime value is around $560, I think, something like that. So that's pretty good. In my golf business, it was more like around 110. Okay, because most people would buy like 2 DVDs on average, and you didn't have any guarantee they were going to come back and buy a second one. You had to actually sell them that second one. And so there's a lot of things going on there. But yeah, I would never start a business again if it wasn't in recurring revenue. Okay, so Hubstaff is a SaaS-based business. It passes that test. High gross margin. So Hubstaff has pretty good margin, and so in my SEO business, I had a lot of services. It was a very service intensive type of a business, and even at Hubstaff, we have a service arm of the company. And when your margins go down in a service business, your margins go way down because, well, if it's not you doing the service, performing the service, if it's you performing the service, then the margins are very high. But if you've got to pay others to do the work, the actual work, and you charge on an hourly basis, that kind of thing, you know, your margins are going to be a lot lower because labor is going to be your highest cost by far. And it isn't, in my previous business, we were selling a lot of, productized services, which means like content, that kind of stuff. Um, and even that, though, your margins may be 40%. So at Hubstaff, we keep a very high margin, and most of that's done through, like I said here, good engineering. But and I gave the example here of a firearms accessory site that I built up. Um, but man, I had to shut that down because it was just like I couldn't keep up. I mean, the margins were so low, and it was just that's a learning experience. You live and you learn. But it was like margins were like 10%, like Amazon style stuff, and it's just like um, you know, I just would never do that again. It's very, very hard. You have to have huge volume. And even at huge volume, you have to, consider all the customers that you're going to have, all the servers, everything to make up for that volume. It's just very hard to make, to create profits, which is not why I'm in business. You try to design them to be very profitable up front. So high price of monthly competition. This is something that we failed on for sure. Um, our average user is about $5 a user. Um, the average size of teams is around six. So we have like a $30 average revenue per customer, and that's just not high enough when you look at other businesses that are able to make so much more, high revenue. I was on a call with Dane Maxwell of the foundation. I was on his podcast, and basically, we were talking about it, and I said, today I would probably accept, $60, something like that. And he, basically said, yeah, man, I would build for 99, not much lower than 99. And the reason behind that is just because, man, um, why work harder to, you know, why have to get more customers, to make the same amount of money? And because in most cases, like when you look at like a decision point like Hubstaff versus like when a customer comes in to buy that product versus when they come in to buy, like I have down below, I think I have well, let's just use one, analytics, for example, like Kissmetrics, something like that. I don't even know the pricing, but it probably starts at around $70 a user, uh, or a month, I should say. And it's like the decision point for somebody to get into Hubstaff is no harder than the decision point for somebody to get into Kissmetrics. Chances are the customer comes in, tests a few different products, sees what works the best, and then goes from there. So why not go ahead and try to get that extra revenue if you can, because the decision point really isn't much harder for the customer. So opportunity for large customers. This is one we pass, but we found that our, like this is kind of like the enterprise stuff. You don't, you want the opportunity, but this isn't, I wouldn't say this is one of the most important tests. At this point in time, based on what I know, this might be one of the lowest weights. In my previous business, okay, we had a client that was paying us about $16,000 a month. And I can say that was like super nice, right? That was great to have that kind of revenue from one customer. But when you lose it, it also hurts really bad. But in general, what this specific test is about is like you just want the opportunity. Hubstaff is very scalable. You just go up. You want a plan of 100. Just click the button and it's done. And that's kind of where I was going with that. In my golf business, for example, I didn't have this ability to get large clients. Everything was a one-off basis. I wasn't dealing with any like companies. Golf schools were the largest dollar that I had, and they were just, they were very hard to do. Okay, so the market tests. Large market. Now these are, really important. So like if I'm looking at anything to be like one of the most important things, it's the market. And the reason why is because it really affects where your business goes long term, and you better have a market and an industry that's on the rise, and not shrinking, because the shrinking market just kills you, because typically you have a lot of competitors that have been in that market for a lot of time, and then um, as the market shrinks, competition gets harder and harder, prices drop, everything like that. So, what you want to do is you want to be one of the leaders in an up and coming market, so that you just kind of are like riding the wave, and there's all kinds of places you can research that, but that's very important, is the market that you're getting into. Not only that, but also it's like, make sure that you have a specialty in the market. It's what you know. Um, so global, again, hugely important. Right here, like 50% of our customers are from outside of the U.S. And like, this is just something where it's like, by no means would I ever, like, I couldn't imagine owning a local business. Um, it would just be too hard. It'd be too hard to find customers. And I just look at it as like, man, like, how many customers am I missing out on because I have this locally based business? Okay, easily identifiable customers. Again, another extremely important one that Hubstaff failed on. I got into this thing, you know, all about the value that I was providing to my customer base, and to this day, that's one of the most important things that that we do. In fact, you know, I was talking to somebody I did a guest blog post, and I was telling them that basically, you know, we don't we decided to spend our money on development over marketing, because the product has become the marketing. People find your product and they stick, or they don't. People are very smart, and so that's my. I'm kind of getting off on a tangent there, but the bottom line is that I got into the business based on the value that I knew this product could provide to customers, but I didn't know who those customers were, and that was the problem. I didn't know where to find it. In fact, I had an idea who they were, but I didn't know how to find them, and I still don't know how to find them. You know, I'm a pretty smart guy. I study this stuff, and this has been one of the hardest things in my whole entire life, is finding and targeting the right customers for this business. Um, it's been we found some success in terms of inbound, because they find you, but like, in terms of like outbound, there's so many ways that this can go wrong. Even if they run a remote team, you don't know if they want your software. And so you're dealing, and you don't know if they have a remote team. You don't know if they have the remote. So it's like you're dealing with every business out there, and it's like whittling it down to the very small percentage that are actually interested in your product. But the problem with that, which is fine, it's a numbers game. But the problem with that is that, based on that fact, and then as well, with what I said above, our low price per customer, you can't make the math work on an outbound salesperson. So that's an issue. So if you know who your customers are up here, like I have, like chiropractors, lawyers, golfers, whatever, it makes them very easy to target, because you can throw ads up, you can find niches where they operate. So again, very important to like know where your customers hang out before you start a business, because it's really impacted the growth of. I'm convinced this has impacted the growth of Hubstaff in a negative way more than anything else. Okay, so your industry knowledge, I mentioned that above, but it's like, if you can create content around what the business is, you'll be at a much you'll have an advantage over somebody that doesn't understand the market that they're getting into. Um, and you'll also have passion around that, and those two things go hand in hand. Content. I wouldn't be doing this video right now if I didn't love business and startups, um, as well as management and talking to small business owners, that kind of thing. Right? That's what I love to do, and if I hated that stuff, then I wouldn't be making this video today, which is, may drive some customers to Hubstaff at some point in time. Maybe not, but the bottom line is that I wouldn't be making the video if I didn't have an interest in this specific market and the specific customers that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So now getting on to the concept tests. Web only, this is how your product operates. Or how you build your product, right? So it's more about your product than anything else. So with Hubstaff, we had to build timers, desktop timers for Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, and it's been very hard. So I say, above that, the hardest thing I've done is to find and identify bases of potential customers for Hubstaff. My partner, who's on the development side, his probably the hardest thing he's ever done is creating these, all these desktop clients. It's taken our development time from probably 3 or 4 months to develop. If we were just going to do browser, time tracker, that kind of thing, all the way to 2 years. So it's and that's when you're running a startup, you don't have revenue for 2 years because you don't have a product that's ready to roll. Now, we did have some revenue, but, again, it impacted the growth because every customer that comes in is measuring you against somebody else, some other product. If you don't have your product nailed up, then you're losing those potential people. So, that time to get to market is, and to really start seeing revenue. I mean, I would only go with the web-based company if I were to start over today. Web-based could be anything. Web-based could be e-commerce. Web-based could be software. Web-based could be, blogging. Web-based could be a lot of stuff. But I would only do web-based. And in fact, it goes the other way as well. I would never start a product that you actually had to sell, whatever, baseball bats, right? I mean, it's I would do something on the internet for sure, and I would do something that did not require any desktop development. So, and by the way, mobile development is just as hard as desktop, pretty much. So, from our experience, so it's maybe not quite as difficult as writing in C++ with the our desktop clients are, but and it's a little bit more it's easier to find developers for mobile right now, and there's only 2 main kind of platforms, Android and iOS, but it's not easy and it's not cheap. So just keep that in mind. Value add. All right. So this, again, like I mentioned that above, the entire reason that I wanted to start this specific business is because I knew they would be in the service, and that I would be adding significant value to their lives every single day. They would save money, or they would, save time, and time is worth more to many entrepreneurs than money, by using this software. And so that was the whole goal, and like I said, there's several customers that we're saving over $20,000 a year just by using, and so that becomes, somewhat of an easy sell, as long as we have our product buttoned up. Okay, viral potential. This is cool because it helps us grow. Like in our software, you have a business owner that invites a person to come work for them, and then basically that person has the ability, they might work for more than one manager. So, meaning they might be a freelancer and they have 3 clients. So the freelancer might like our system and the way our software works and what it does for them. And then they might go and invite their other 2 clients to get on the software, which then, if they like the software, those clients like the software, the other 2 clients, they then go and they invite their other freelancers to get on the system. And then, so it's a viral effect, a web that occurs naturally. Again, you've got to have your product buttoned up and really high class in order to make that happen, because it's not going to, no one's going to virally promote a crappy product. But once you're there, this is huge. And I'm not going to say that because I actually added it down below. Okay, onboarding complexity. This is this is something that we are dealing with right now. We failed at this one, and basically that is because as a business owner, you come in and now you've got to invite all of your, say, 5 employees in. Now, um, you know, they've got to, the problem is if any of those 5 employees have issues or whatever, they don't get the email inviting them. There's many steps, right, to have that happen. Um, and so you can read this here, but basically, they've got to go through several steps. It's desktop based. They've got to start the timer. There's a few different things that have to happen in order to get a successful company onboarded at Hubstaff. And if you compare that to, like Google Analytics for whatever, like just for example, where they have WordPress plugins and they have, it's just basically, JavaScript that you just paste into your site and you're up and running. You're getting your data. It's beautiful. You get all your data. And you can even have easier onboarding experiences. But pay attention to how much work it's going to take and how much training you've got to provide and education you've got to provide somebody in terms of getting your product up and running the right way, because that's important. We get a lot of trials that don't end up converting to customers, and the biggest reason why is because something is amiss along the path of getting them fully onboarded. Whether that's just time and they just don't come back to do it, or whatever reason. There's a lot of reasons why that could happen, but basically, I would, advise looking at this very closely. Attribution. This is what I was going to say earlier when we talked about the viral effect. So this is a different way of virility, but basically, what you're looking for here is some kind of product that allows for attribution, or not allows for it, but you can have built-in attribution. So Google Maps, you can tell when you can embed Google Maps, but like if you embed them, then it goes through and it shows that it's Google Maps. YouTube, same thing, right? So these companies grow. Here's an example of Hello Bar, but the companies grow by attribution, and actually, it can be a great, growth strategy on its own. So it is. Oh, if you have good attribution, you might not have to do much else, and so that would be really badass if that was the case. All right, Hubstaff fails at this. Level of support. So this is a very interesting one that we didn't think. Again, we failed at it, but we didn't think about this. When we were starting the company, and now we're kind of past it. We're kind of to the point where our software is rock solid, and there's there's not a big problem with this, but it still is a little bit. It still is not a good thing, right? So I still put it down as a fail. But basically, what this is that when a customer comes on board, how many people do you really have to support? Like, how many people do you really have to support in order to get that one paying customer? At Hubstaff, like I said, our average number is like 6. So we've got to support 6, actually 7, because if you have a team of 6 contractors and you're the manager, you're the 7th, right? So 7 people for one paying account. And there are some, it pays off in the viral aspect, like I was saying earlier, but from this aspect, it only takes one person to say, I don't like this, or, we're not going to do this, or whatever, for the whole paying customer to be lost. Versus for example, in my SEO business, a customer would come in. Typically they didn't have a team; they just had one person. They would come in, they would use the software, and then they would leave. Right? They would use it. I don't know, on average, probably 7-10 times a month, which is fine. It wasn't as used by any means as Hubstaff, but the bottom line is that when somebody came in, it was just them. If I could please them, then I had a paying customer. If I didn't please them, now I've got to please. You've got to literally please and onboard 7 people to get one paying account. And that also the other side of that is that you've got to pay for all that support. So, and that's what I was saying before. Like we're kind of past that now because we don't get as much support per customer, so that level has really gone down. But you know. In the beginning, this was rough because you have to please so many people in order to get one paying account. And there's, for every extra person you got to please, there's one more potential for potential drop off. Okay, so let's see here. Daily use. This is an important one. I mean, this is another one that's like I just mentioned that in my SEO business, people use the software 7-10 times a month, which is like I would say is enough. But what you want to really strive for is like using it all the time. Like it's very difficult to get off once you've made that decision to get on. And obviously that comes in value, but it also comes because they're getting so much value from your service. So it's hard from that aspect. But the other aspect is that it's just hard to get off. It takes time to switch, time to test other services, whatever. We passed this one because we're a platform that people use every single day, all day long, and we provide a very integral part of their business. I mean, they run their businesses on our software. So, if an employee is working, they're working on Hubstaff, and so every single day, all day long. But again, like I wrote it down as daily use, not like every single second of every day. That's not necessary. But what is cool is that like Gmail add-ons, for example, whenever you're in Gmail, you got the add-on on, or you've got an add-on on. So basically, you're seeing that all the time. You're interacting with it all the time. You're using it all the time, and so that's a good thing because it's like the reason people stop paying for software is because they stop using it. That's the number one reason. You stop using it, you stop paying for it. So if you can continue that use, you'll be better off. Difficulty to build, kind of related up to the other one that we talked about regarding the web only, but this is like more about the timing. It goes into more detail about the timing. So if you can get MVP out of your product, or even pre-sell your product before you sell it, then that's ideal. But this all has to do with that amount of time before you can start generating revenue, right? So that's the main thing. It's like I literally, we could have built, my partner and I, we could have built 3 or 4 businesses, complete businesses, in the time it took to build one business because we didn't pay attention to this. And we failed. So that is this blog post. And like you said, I decided to do a video for this post because it seems like a lot of people are curious and really are into this kind of idea. And so again, just to close it out, I would just advise you to spend as much time as possible up front. Try to find, even if if your business passes 10 of these, out of however many there are, that's better than like 0 or 6. So I would aim for at least 65%, 70% of these things to be passed, and really think closely about the ones that you don't pass. And think close about the ones you do pass, because the ones you do pass, like I said, like for example, if you have attribution, that could drive your whole business. So there's a lot to be said for the ones you do pass as well. So, hey, hope you enjoyed this, and thanks very much, and I'll make more of these in the future. Bye.